But the spiciest topic of probably the last 24 hours has been around this kind of growing rumor about, okay, well, the Orioles eventually are going to have to make a decision on who was going to be the new manager. Now, Tony Manzolino, obviously interim manager. He has this team playing well down the stretch. His name's going to be in consideration. But it doesn't stop people, right, from thinking, well, what could be in the future? Who could be the next leader that comes into Baltimore? And that gets everyone's brain working. That gets emotions flowing. And so yesterday we had former Baltimore Oriole and longtime MLB veteran Jerry Hairston Jr. join the show. And he's out there covering the LA Dodgers. So first and foremost, I asked Jerry, well, give me your rundown of Dave Roberts as a manager. What makes him so good? And then Jerry couldn't help himself by giving us two options that he thinks the Baltimore Orioles should consider that could be the next Dave Roberts. So, Kevin, I'm going to play this clip for you guys right now. What that new leadership's going to be. Dave Roberts has been a staple for this team, and he's a veteran. You know, in your mind, what's the value of having somebody that has been around for so long? Because I know with Baltimore, they're going to have to face, do we go and get somebody that's been there and done that, or do we take a risk on a new voice but doesn't have that experience with so much expectations to face?
That's a great question, and I know that they're going to have some decisions to make. What the Dodgers decided to do, they took a chance on a new manager years back, Dave Roberts. It was his first managerial gig, but they took a guy who understood analytics, but, and this is a huge but, is a baseball lifer. Dave Roberts, if you go back to his track record, he was a walk-on UCLA, right? He grinded his way to the big leagues. He was an everyday player. He was the 25th man on the roster. He came off the bench, obviously in the World Series, to seal that critical base for the Red Sox. So he did just about everything there was in that game, in the game as a player. Then he became a coach. But I think more importantly, too, Dave Roberts does an incredible job of communicating. He reminds me a lot of Dusty Baker. He makes sure that he has a great rapport with the stars like Shohei Ohtani and Mookie Betts, but he also has a great rapport with guys before they get to the big leagues and lets them know, hey, even though you're on the 40-man and you have yet stepped foot at the big league level, I'm going to make sure I get to know you in spring training. So when you do get called up, we already know each other. So I think that is the key. It's not just in the big leagues. You hire a guy to be a cultural manager, big league level, and know the kid at A-ball, know the kid in AA and AAA, and make sure everybody's on the same page. Can you handle the media, especially in today's age, right? You got to be able to handle the media with social media and everything to be able to communicate with the front office, communicate, obviously, with the media, and be able to communicate with the players, from the stars to the rookie. You got to have that great rapport. And I think Dave Roberts does it better than anybody in sports, not just in baseball. But to get back to the Orioles, if you guys are looking for a manager, this is just my 2 cents. I would look at 2 guys. George Lombard, he's the bench coach of the Detroit Tigers. And I would look at Skip Schumacher. He's currently with the Rangers. Those 2 guys are great as far as mirroring that analytic world and being able to communicate with today's players. Those are 2 guys I would definitely have my eye on if I was going to choose a manager.
So Jerry gave a very descriptive conversation on that, which I love, and that's why I love Jerry Hairston Jr. Also, Jerry Hairston Jr. is a hell of a golfer, in case you're wondering. And look, I think what we want to get across here is when you're hiring someone new, being able to communicate and lead is essential. And you got to try to maximize the most out of your players. But also that's no knock to anybody out there, right? You have to find what works for you. And Dave Roberts, what he's saying was, Dave Roberts was a lifer, been around the game. First job that he had as a manager came at being the one that runs the Los Angeles Dodgers and helps them try to get to where they want to go, and that's to be World Series champions. And what have they done since Dave Roberts has been there? They've won 2. They have been the most consistent team in baseball. And you can say, well, look at all the talent that they have there. Anyone could win with that type of lineup. Well, erroneous, because you've seen it throughout history. You guys remember the Washington Nationals were supposed to be crowned as the team to win the National League East when they signed Scherzer, and they had this prolific pitching staff with Bryce Harper on that offense. And not only did they not even win the division, they didn't even make the playoffs. And look at what the Baltimore Orioles this year, even though with the expectations high, they've fallen flat in their certain cases. Texas Rangers were a team that was supposed to bounce back, and they're having their struggles. My point being, the Dodgers, no matter what, through thick and thin, have been able to play great baseball and have success. A big reason why, the guy that's running the show for them has continued to keep that group accountable, responsible, and he presses the right buttons at the right time. And Zach, yesterday, you were grinning from ear to ear when you heard one name.
Yeah.
Now Skip Schumacher, which if you guys forgot who Skip was the manager for the Marlins. And they had their big turnaround where Skip was at the helm. They went into a rebuild, new front office, and now Skip no longer there. So that's one name. And George Lombard. You want to guess where George Lombard came from?
Where he came from or where he's at right now?
Where he's at now is the Tigers. Where do you think that coaching tree started for him?
Where?
LA Dodgers under Dave Roberts. So two options there, but Zach, I'll let you go because you were grinning with Skip Schumacher.
I mean, I agree with everything Jerry said, because I think what truly is this new day baseball manager is, we've talked to so many Hall of Famers, Craig Biggio, mentioned about, sometimes there's too much analytics. And I think, Jerry pointed out one of the best things that a Dave Roberts does is he marries, the baseball player and the analytics. He has that baseball side. He's a baseball lifer. He understands the game. He lives and breathes baseball. So he gets the situational stuff, but he also uses analytics. But, Jerry talking about, hey, yeah, maybe the analytics are saying in this situation, we should bat this guy. But my baseball gut feeling is this guy that I'm got coming up to the plate is 3 for 3 tonight. He's grinded out a bet. That's who we're going with. So it's not always about going with the analytics. So I think a guy like Skip Schumacher, who has shown the ability to kind of, yes, he's going to look at analytics, but it's more than that. It's marrying the two and kind of finding that sweet spot of how are we using analytics to benefit us, but not allowing them to take away from this team, where maybe in the past, even with the Orioles, you've seen, a guy like a Ryan O'Hearn, he's 2 for 2, he's 3 for 3, 3 for 4, whatever it may be. And then it gets to the 8th inning, he comes up, but a lefty's on the mound, so they go with the righty. Righty gets out, and all of a sudden you're sitting there going, wait, O'Hearn's been your hottest player. Why is he not banging there? There are just times where you have to throw analytics out and the baseball sense has to take over. I think that's kind of the perfect manager for the Orioles, is someone who can take all the analytics that they're given, because as long as Mike Elias and Sig Mejdal are in there, they're going to be analytics driven up top. So it's taking those analytics and not overdoing it. It's being able to marry, here's what the analytics are telling us, but here's how this team's playing. Here's what's going on the human side that the numbers can't calculate. Who's feeling good today? Who's, going out there and who's been playing with confidence, that stuff. And then being able to use the analytics to help that stuff instead of going solely off of that.
Yeah. And again, Kevin, I'll go to you. That's the point that I want to throw out there. I know saying spending money, the Dodgers, they have a 627 win percentage since Dave Roberts took over in 2016. 627.
Wow. Yeah.
They've consistently been at the top or near the top. Only one time they haven't won the division since Dave Roberts took over. That was 2021. And that was because the Giants outlasted them in wins. The Dodgers had 106 wins on the season, right?
Yeah.
So when you're looking at all this, yes, the one that steers the ship is important. And I'm curious, like George Lombard's interesting to me, right? Because we look at all the coaches that come from these prolific coaching trees in the NFL and around sports. I mean, Kevin, George Lombard coming from Dave Roberts and learning from him, and now the Tigers having a lot of success over there with A.J. Hinch at the head of that, I think that is an interesting one that Jerry threw out there. And I think that teams do look for, if you're not going to go with a savvy veteran, who is that next in line that can have that impact?
And it's the coaching tree part of it, right? Where I think, to me, you kind of look at the Orioles, and you can make plenty of arguments for them going and bringing in someone that has that experience. But for me, if it's not going to be that guy, and you want someone who has the ability to come in, motivate your team, and is that next young and up and coming coach, there's something you have to balance out with that in terms of, is this what that team needs? But if he's a strong leader, if he can come in and implement his ideologies and the way he wants his team to be and to go, man, I mean, I'd be all for it, because sometimes it's not always just about that. Now, personally, I think that having someone with experience would help this team out a lot. But if that's not the route that they go, it doesn't all of a sudden mean that, oh, they're not going to be set up for success, because learning under guys like Dave Roberts and being around successful teams, sometimes all it takes is a shot and an opportunity. So, we'll see what ends up happening there. But for now, you're kind of riding it out with Tony and seeing what goes.
I agree. Can you hear me right now, Kev?
No, yeah. We got you. We got you loud and clear.
Beautiful. Yeah, at the end of the day, you're going to need someone that can come in there with expectations high, because I believe that no one in the Orioles organization, as far as general manager, that's not changing. So next year, whoever you pick, that is going to be the make or break, depending on how the team does, because expectations are going to be high. So whoever you hire, you got to be prepared that the Orioles are going to be facing just as much pressure in 2026 than they did to start off the 2025 season. And if you like this video and you like the conversations, hit that like and subscribe button. Ryan Ripken Show.